latest album, Czarmagedon, is out. I'm guessing they'll be going on tour as well. You can probably learn all of that. Check him out on Instagram. It's Zarface_SO. He's got that blue check mark that I'm super jealous of. My name's Mike
Gary
Alden.
V got me that, man. Your boy Gary V. Gary V.
Gary V got you that?
Yes, he did. Yes,
Hold on. I was about to end the show. Tell me how that happened.
This is the Alden Report.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by Wicked Happy. The way you live your life depends on your outlook, and theirs is simple. Be Wicked Happy. Wicked Happy provides you with apparel to make you smile. So if you want to be wicked happy and you want to look wicked cool, then visit wickedhappy.com, and at checkout, enter in the code RADIO for an additional 15% off your entire order. Again, visit wickedhappy.com, apparel to make you smile.
This is the Alden Report.
All right, my name is Mike Alden. We are here in Blue Vase Studios, and as always, I say how excited I am for my guest. My next guest is actually a good friend of mine. I've known him pretty much my entire life. He's an internationally recognized, world-famous hip-hop star known by Esoteric. That's not his real name, but then again, Mike Alden's not my real name, too. We'll talk about that another time. I'm rocking my 99-cent glasses. I got my Wicked Happy hoodie on. He's in the car, and we're here today to not only talk about his latest album called Czarmagedon, but I want to talk to him about the business of building himself up, building his career. How did it start? Like, what is he doing? How does he continue to be relevant and things like that? So please help me welcome my good friend Esoteric right from his car. Thanks for being here, brother.
Yeah, no doubt. Thank you for having me, man. Thank you. Very happy to be here.
So I know you're busy. I think you guys are started your tour. You're on tour, and I tried to get you on. So I want to start with like the origin story. So you and I have known each other pretty much our whole lives. I'm pretty sure I saw the first time you ever performed live at Beverly High School on stage. Talk about the genesis of, and I don't know that I know this. Like, what made you decide that you wanted to be, an MC, rapper, or whatever we'll call it? What made you want to do that?
I think just the correlation between hip hop and basketball, which back then I was really heavily infatuated with playing, and they seem to go hand in hand, and that's kind of what powered my ball playing, is listening to hip hop. They just went together, man. And then I kind of fell in love with both cultures at the same time, and Lord knows I can't play hoops, so I try to rhyme. So here we are. Run DMC, Public Enemy, Big Daddy Kane, NWA, EPMD, all those groups really played a heavy hand coming out of boom boxes everywhere, and that's just kind of led me in that direction.
So, when you think about the cultural aspect of it, you're a white guy from Boston. I think the first time you might have got on stage I think it was in like it might have been 1991 or something like that. I think 1990. I think that's when it was, when I might have saw you in the BHS auditorium. There really weren't. I mean, you had the Beastie Boys. I think Vanilla Ice might have been out there, but there wasn't really a lot of like white guys out there rapping. Was that difficult for you, or as far as like people taking it seriously or taking you seriously?
Yeah, definitely. It was very tricky until like 8 Mile came out. You know what I mean? So we would do a whole bunch of shows everywhere, and it was always a risky deal, whether we were going to get shit thrown at us or we were going to just get booed immediately, or and that happened plenty of times, and we were tested many times. But I mean, once 8 Mile came out with Eminem, I think a lot of kids were inspired to be just like him, and that the blast radius from that, it made everything okay for everybody to start rapping. And then Jack Harlow, and there are a lot of Little Dicky, there's all types of white rappers now that I don't think it's as surprising to people. You know what I mean? If I told someone I was an MC back in 92 or something, their head would pop off. But if I tell them now, it's not as surprising to a lot of people, because everyone's, I imagine, you're within 30 feet of an aspiring rapper right now. You don't even know you are, but you are.
Really? I was like, where are they? Wait a minute, is that Garrett? Is Garrett gonna be rapping? Garrett's not even here today.
Yeah, just go down and Stop and Shop. There's somebody over there. Trust me. Yeah.
So you start out again, really, I think it was in high school, right? When you decided that you were going to do this.
Yeah, probably maybe 8th grade, maybe somewhere in there. Yeah, definitely.
Now,
but I mean, I never really started recording stuff until I got out of, maybe senior year in high school.
So you start recording stuff. Where'd you go to? Did you go to Emerson? I forget where you went to college.
Went to Salem State, where I met 7L, who's been my producer since. And I went to Emerson, and I went to Cambridge College for a little bit, but bounced around. Journeyman on my college career. Bounced
around a little bit, but so you knew at a very early age, like this is what you wanted to do. So in those early stages, in entrepreneurship, we're going to talk a lot about your business side of things. But in those early stages, especially back then, again, you'd mentioned some of the kind of the old school hip hop groups and artists that still are relevant today. But to break through, to really become serious, in those early stages, what did you do to really sustain life? Like I'm guessing you might have had some, odd jobs or what have you. And also, was there a point early on where you were like, I'm just not, this isn't going to work?
Yeah, absolutely. There was, I mean, we would tour. We'd go over to Europe and tour for about a month and a half. But that money would only last so long. And we would get money from our vinyl sales. Independent vinyl was very big in the mid 90s, mid 90s, right up through the early 2000s. And that helped things, but
this stuff right here, vinyl? Is that what this is?
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
For those watching,
see what vinyl that is. I can't see it from here. It's probably like Kenny Loggins or something, but we're talking about hip hop stuff, and I feel like getting money. I think when I was back then, it was probably one of the most terrifying things to me would be to admit that I did have a day job or something at the time, and just because I was young and too proud, but I did work with the elderly. I worked with people suffering from Alzheimer's and dementia for about a decade, and that was balancing that, and the music was, a juggling act, but I got it done. And now it's not obviously, but it's obviously my full-time gig now, and it has been since I don't know the mid 2000s, I guess. The only gig really, but it's multifaceted since it's not just the music. We have action figures, we have comic books, we have other things on the horizon too. So,
yeah, you've done a really good job of, and I talk a lot about like authenticity. Like it's an interesting thing because you have this image, right, and a lot of the people have their public persona, of hey, I'm a hip hop guy, and then they have their real life. But you've actually been able to incorporate your real life and really who you are. Do you feel like your authenticity has resonated with people? In other words, like I'm on your Instagram page and, you'll do stuff with your son, you show your journeys with your dog, you get your wife on there, but then, then there's a, then there's a, like a post about, a tour or what have you. Like, do you feel like you're really who you are, like at all times?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that does resonate with a percentage of our fan base. They'll message me and say, hey, I really love the fact that you incorporate things from your actual life into your promotion or your content or your Instagram feed, whatever it is, because it's just I think it's refreshing to a lot of the people that listen to the genre of music that we're in, because really all they see is something, say, you and I would see when we were listening to Eazy-E or Ice Cube, you know what I mean? It was just this, all we had was the only window we had was the music and the music video, really. And it put this image in your head that, things were very violent, all the time violent, and all the time in your face attitude, fuck everyone, you know what I mean? It's just like, I think when you get to be older, you get wiser, and you value what's really important. And I think a lot of people that as they grow up with you, alongside you, they value the same thing, and they say, yeah, this guy's not about that bullshit, you know what I mean? But at the same time, there are 21-year-old rappers now that I look at and just shake my head. But then I got to think to myself, like, I was 21 at one point too, and the most important thing to me was what I had on, you know?
Yeah, you think about relevance, right? And also not only relevance, but just trying to break through. And same thing. I'm not in that world like you, but I do, follow some of these guys too. And you wonder, kind of what's going through their head. But I think a lot of it is they're just trying to get people's attention, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. A lot of it is like, pro wrestling in a way, where I always have this thing in my head, like, you can say you're the dopest, greatest, most influential rapper of all time on the mic, but when it comes to a situation like this, you got to take that facade off, and you have to just kind of level with people. You know what I mean? Like, if you hear me rhyme, I might slip out saying like, hey, I'm the dopest guy, you could ever, because that's just what hip hop, a lot of the most entertaining aspects of hip hop was started with. And but I know there are ceilings I got to break through, and there's still accolades I have to accomplish. So, I think a lot of people that claim that to your face are, I envy their delusion in a bit, but I still, you just have to, I think being a little bit more grounded and a little more self-aware can help a rapper sustain a career without, losing their mind or getting laughed out of the building.
In a second, I want to talk to you about kind of that breakthrough moment, not 8 Mile. I think it might have been something even before that for you that really kind of put not only you and 7L, but Zarface kind of on the map. Again, we're on with my good friend Esoteric. He is one of 2 or 3, and so depending on which album it is, of Zarface. If you'd like some more information about Zarface, just go to zarface.com. They got their latest album, Czarmagedon. Look, he's a friend of mine. I'm a big fan of his regardless, but I'm actually like a real fan. I love the beats. I love the rhymes. I love the collaborations, which we'll talk a little bit about. I love his authenticity. And again, we're just friends. So, I mean, I'm stroking him a little bit, but I really, I'm a fan of what he's doing. And that's why I wanted to have him on, because I want to have him on, and we're going to talk a lot about the business side of things as well. But again, if you'd like some more information about what he's doing, what his group is doing, what Zarface is doing, just go to Zarface, czarface.com. And you can also just Google these guys. They're everywhere. And it's really interesting what they're doing. So, like the breakout moment for you, I know that you, like you said, you did some touring in Europe and you're doing some stuff, but was there a moment like pre 8 Mile? I know, like, because 8 Mile is really not that old, but when something happened in your career, like I'm pretty sure you guys got nominated for a Boston Grammy, and there were some other things. Was there like a one moment where you're like almost like a tipping point, like, all right, this is it, like we haven't made it, but we're respected?
Yeah, I think performing in LA and New York, going to, traveling Europe, having our own genre that, kind of being one of the, I don't know, maybe more significant acts or successful acts in that indie hip hop scene. That was, I can't really think of a moment prior to, because at that whole time we were 7L and Esoteric, and that was the name of the group. And we won a few local Boston Music Awards and things like that, but we were always kind of focused on New York, and we focused on the international market, just getting, we wanted to get out of Boston. We were happy to get those awards, and I still dressed up for the events and shit, but we just kind of, New York is the Mecca. So we kind of always wanted to win New York over and get to the Source Awards and things like that. But really, I think, and 7L would agree, I think Zarface is really where, when we formed Zarface in about 2011 with Inspectah Deck of Wu-Tang Clan, that's when things started to really hit, because not only was I paired with a legendary MC, I think we had the marketing down right and the idea down right with the character of Zarface, which kind of clicked with a lot of people and led to a whole bunch of different avenues to, promote the character and have the character exist, where it led to comic books and action figures and so forth, So the formation of Zarface was probably our breakout moment.
Yeah, and that's, again, I think it's really interesting, what you guys are doing, what you continue to do. So you create this character slash group slash entity. It's almost hard to describe, but really you have a character called Czarface. And was the genesis of that when I think there was a couple rhymes where you had mentioned maybe some Marvel comic stuff, or like what? How did that actually come to you?
Well, to be honest with you, so my son was born in 2008, and he had taken over our lives, and I was really getting deep back into Star Wars and Marvel and DC and all those things with him, relating to him and all the stuff that I loved growing up too. So it just put everything in that whole world on steroids. So I was like, if I'm going to keep making these records and do this record with Deck and 7L, how do I make it fun and somehow get him involved in a way that makes, as I was spending so much time with him, make it, fun for him too. So I had the idea of coming up with a character named Zarface that could be his personal superhero. And we got his voice on the record and stuff like that. That was a lot of the motivation for me in the beginning, because I didn't know it was going to take off the way that it did. And I was like, well, we'll always have this one Zarface record that was kind of inspired by my son, the character. And obviously it's a blessing to work with Deck from Wu-Tang, and I thought it would just be this one record that existed, but it hit. And then Deck wanted to do a second one, and of course we wanted to do that. And then he got Method Man involved and Jizza involved, and we just kept going from there. And now, I feel like we're really hitting on all cylinders as far as Zarface goes.
Well, I didn't know that story, man. I'm smiling because that's a beautiful story, man. It all started with your son. I mean,
yeah, on my end, it certainly did. Yeah, that was the inspiration. I said I needed something to make this all work and keep him in the mix somehow, because he was with me all the time. I was listening to beats for the record. He'd be in the back seat, and I'd say, "What does this beat sound like?" And he would say something. He's like, "What's the name?" And I'll say, "This is the Magneto beat," or "This is the Wolverine beat," and then that type of thing would keep him involved and focused on it, so I could focus on it. And so it became this game of me naming beats after people like Green Lantern or whatever, just to have him involved, and I could focus because he'd be involved. It just kind of grew from there. And then he's 13 now, but when we started it, he was, I think, 5, and it's been maybe 4. It's been a lot of fun.
Wow, that's super cool. So, you had mentioned 7L was your DJ, your good friend. You met him at Salem State. You guys have been together since day one. We've hung out together a couple times. You talk about that relationship and that kind of unbreakable bond, because I remember when we first met, we were talking about one of the albums that I think you did with Ghostface Killah. And we were talking a little bit about kind of, the business side of that deal, but talk about the importance of 7L and your relationship with him and how he's, kind of goes hand in hand with you, right? There is no, yeah. I mean, there's Esoteric, but without 7L, there is no Zarface, right?
Right. So we had originally met at Salem State. I was DJing. I was doing a college radio show where I would play hip hop, and I'd play a little bit more obscure hip hop that, you had to really be deep in the mud to know these records. And he would call up and request the records. And I didn't even know he went to Salem State at the time. So eventually, as he would make requests, we just kind of, shot the shit on the phone. And I was like, "Oh, wait, you go to Salem State? You want to come down to the station?" And because I would freestyle on the radio and so forth. And he was like, "Listen, you're rapping over other people's records. I make beats and I produce beats. you should check some of them out. And, I did. And I was like, wow, now we're actually like a real rap group or something, and because it was all original music. And that was probably 93. And luckily, which is rare, man. As I said, 93, I can't even do the math. I should though.
I think it might be 20 years, close to that, something like that.
21? Yeah, I think it's
21. I think it's 21.
21.
No, it's not. It's 19. I don't know. It's something like that.
29.
Of course, it's 50 years. I think you guys have been together 50 years.
Yes. So, I think it's rare to keep that type of a relationship that long in the music industry, but it takes being good friends, I think, and seeing a lot of things the same way that helps reinforce it. You know what I mean? We have the same goals, same ideology when it comes to creating hip hop. And we've had falling outs here and there, but it's just over a beat or a rhyme, or he'll be like, don't rap about a girl on this song or something. And I'm like, well, the music makes me want to rap about a girl. He's like, yeah, but people don't want to hear that. And I'm like, and I agree, but then we'll go back and forth about something like that. And those are really the only type of arguments we have. We never really, have too much struggle. It's nothing that can't be settled over a dinner and a drink or something, I
want to talk about like the power of collaboration. It seems to be more of a thing in the hip hop world. In fact, I was listening to I think it was Green Day and Howard Stern talking a little bit about how kind of the rock world doesn't really collaborate as much as the hip hop world. I want to talk about that in just a second, how that's also helped your career. Again, we're on with Esoteric from Zarface, good friend of mine, Beverly guy. We grew up together. He's really doing some big things. He continues to do some big things. He talked a little bit about it earlier, but I think he's just really at the beginning. Really, it's amazing what's happened. In fact, I didn't tell him this. I walked into Zoomies, by the way, and I'd mentioned you, and the guy's like, "Oh my God, I know him. These guys are doing some big things." So if you'd like some more information about Esoteric or Zarface, you just go to zarface.com, CZARface.com. They got a bunch of stuff on there. We haven't even really talked about the other marketing side. Hopefully I can keep him here for a while, but also his latest album, Czarmagedon, it's available everywhere where music is sold. I mean, he even has cassettes, which I think is a little crazy, but he's got cassettes, he's got vinyls, he's got CDs. You can download it. It's on Spotify. It's everywhere. I'm a big fan. If you like hip hop, if you like kind of the old school beats as well from 7L, who we had mentioned, you're going to really love what these guys are doing. They tour all over the world. They're not just Boston guys. He's not just a Boston guy, and he's not just my friend, but this guy is really doing some big things. So you can check him out at zarface.com.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by Wicked Happy. The way you live your life depends on your outlook, and theirs is simple. Be wicked happy. Wicked Happy provides you with apparel to make you smile. So if you want to be wicked happy and you want to look wicked cool, then visit wickedhappy.com, and at checkout, enter in the code RADIO for an additional 15% off your entire order. Again, visit wickedhappy.com, apparel to make you smile.
So collaboration, man, we in the business world, you hear a lot about it, and you say, well, it's great to collaborate because you can kind of leverage, other people's audiences. You can leverage other people's connections, and it really helps, on the business side sometimes grow. But things can also go wrong pretty quick if that collaboration isn't, if you're not aligned, kind of like what you had said, how you and 7L are. Talk about the collaboration. I guess I might have been first with Inspectah Deck, and then some of the other members of the Wu-Tang Clan. And how'd that even happen?
We started working with Inspectah Deck in about 98, 99. We had the same manager. Our manager worked at Loud, and his manager was also affiliated with Loud somehow. And they worked together on getting us on the same track. And it was definitely something we wanted Deck to be a part of, and did not really think it was going to work out. But then we found ourselves in a studio with Inspectah Deck and Street Life and some of the other guys from Wu-Tang in Brooklyn, and recording our first collaboration, which was called Speaking Real Words. And I think that came out in 99 or 2000. And that kind of started the relationship with Deck. So over the years, he'd, want some production from 7L, or he'd jump on one of our tracks here and there. And then 7L had the idea of doing a whole record with Inspectah Deck, which wasn't something I could fathom I did like, a whole 12-track album, and it's like, I don't think he'd want to do that, and just kind of not having the confidence in myself. But that was 7L's idea to do that. And it came to fruition. We made it happen. Deck was down. We turned it out pretty quickly. And then I think there are things that he can talk about and Ghostface can talk about that I can't really talk about. But there are things that I can talk about that we meet in the middle on, you know what I mean? A lot of pop culture stuff, a lot of Wu-Tang's imagery with their superhero stuff and their kung fu stuff. And that's kind of where we meet in the middle. And it created some kind of chemistry with the Zarface stuff that people resonated with. It resonated with people. I don't know, you know what I mean? Because I can't, with Ghost growing up in Stapleton Projects in Staten Island and Deck growing up in Park Hill, I can't, you know what I mean? If I'm going to get on a track and talk about that stuff, it'd be phony. So we found a middle ground somewhere where, we share our love of pop culture, comics, wrestling, hoops, football, things like that. And that's kind of our lane, our genre, our niche.
Yeah, it makes sense when you hear some of their albums. I mean, like, again, they do some of those voiceover kung fu stuff, and like you said, some of the superhero stuff, and you guys have been doing that as well. So, again, I hope we have a little bit more time, but I want to really now. So the other thing that I'm really fascinated with what you're doing is you are creating like a true brand that's outside of who you are as an individual. This Zarface character / entity has really taken on a life beyond even kind of the music. And so I'd mentioned I'd walked into Zoomies and you guys did a deal with them with your t-shirts. Let's first start there. Let's talk about Zarface and the kind of the merchandising side of it. Because if you go to your website, zarface.com, CZAR-face.com, like half of your shit is sold out, which is a great thing. It means you guys are doing great things. But talk about the importance of merchandising, and not necessarily from a money-making standpoint, which is really important, of course, for your business, but really about how you've taken Zarface and created this entity that is and I think could even, well, it's bigger than you as an individual and can really continue to go in so many different facets. But talk about the importance of the branding aspect, from t-shirts to action figures to lunchboxes to skateboards to tattoos to stickers and everything else in between, and why that's important to continue to build your brand.
Well, I think it's really important to keep it going because, the music stuff is just one lane, and that's where it started. And that's what I think, we started out being most passionate about and still are. But, with the streaming services being the way they are and everything, you could just hear music for free at the drop of a hat. You can't download a skateboard or an action figure. You can't stream a t-shirt, the lunchboxes we have now, just these little trading cards, things like that. These are things, tangible things that people can get their hands on. And, a lot of our fan base likes to have something that they can touch because it's, reminiscent of, the 80s and 90s when you would take something out, open it and feel, a sense of ownership of this tangible thing, which I know is, against the grain of NFTs right now, which is, I don't know, hot or not.
By the way, so you can't see it, but in my notes right here, if people can't see it right here, I have you can't see it, but there is I mean, you and I, there it is right there, NFT. Yeah. I've texted you about NFTs. We'll talk about that. But so all right, I want to ask you, like, listen, people listen to this podcast, mostly, they're in the entrepreneurial world. And I think it's also really a testament to you as a business person, 7L, your management, whoever else you're working with, to go from hip hop guys to, hey, let's create an actual comic book. I mean, I remember the first album when I had you here in the studio and we did kind of that spoof infomercial where your album was actually a comic book. And then, like, how does one decide that, hey, you know what, let's create some action figures? Was that a license deal? Did you guys do that on your own? Like, how did that how does that work? Did you start researching manufacturers all over the world?
Well, that was actually one of the main things. With the impetus of Zarface, that was one of the things I really wanted to do, because I wanted, as I said, I was trying to connect it to my son somehow, just to make it relatable to him, and we have something to focus on together, something to motivate me to really make the record and make it different, stand out a little bit. And the idea of an action figure coming, alongside the first album had to happen. That was part of the whole thing. So what I did was I contacted this artist in Brooklyn named Sucklord, and he was actually really a pioneer in bootleg custom action figure building. So he started a business by remodeling Star Wars figures, the old Kenner 3 3/4 action figures, and he would use resin, it still does, and mold them into different things, and just have a different spin on the way Star Wars figures look. So I spoke to him for a while, sat down with him and our artist who drew Zarface, L'Amour Supreme, and he said, we want to make a Zarface figure to accompany the album, and a real limited run of the action figures, and he was able to do them. So it wasn't anything corporate. It was basically he made them, and we paid him, with cash and nothing, no contract, no anything. Just Sucklord making the action figures. Then it grew a little bit, and we made action figures with a guy named Peter Gorel, who runs Killer Bootlegs, which is another toy creator on the independent level, and that led to Super 7, which is Super 7 is huge. So the Zarface stuff that we do with them, Zarface is in the mix with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Thundercats, Star Trek, G.I. Joe, Transformers, NBA teams. So there's we've talked about doing a Zarface Celtics kind of crossover thing, and at this point, there are people that buy the Zarface action figure for the Zarface backstory and his comic lore, and don't even know the music that well. So that's something where you have the casual fan that knows that Zarface makes music, but likes the character. And that's kind of, just as much or more. And that's kind of never a bad thing. Like if you think about Iron Maiden with their mascot, Eddie, everybody knows Eddie, man, whether they can name an Iron Maiden song or not. You know that you know what Eddie looks like, and you know the Iron Maiden covers. So feeling like, in a very microcosmic way, we're in that realm is cool.
Yeah, I think it's I when I look at it as someone who's created things and made things and sourced things, I think you're maybe understating it a little bit. There's a lot to it, but if you really wanted to do it, you did it. What about skateboards too? Like I think I saw a skate video on one of your posts. How does that happen? Do you make a deal with Peralta or Tony Hawk, or like how does that work?
Yeah, that you can do an indie route with that too. Where you work with somebody of a smaller stature that takes a lot of pride in their craft and make sure every deck is handcrafted with this type of wood, and you combine it with the Zarface art, an original design, and we have something in the works that I can't talk about yet, but it's with a prominent skateboard company. And our brand manager, Dustin, who's came on board a few years ago, that's been really helping us with helping the website expand and the brand expand globally with different ventures in Japan and Europe. We have something going, a skateboard thing, which is going to put, decks in a lot of people's hands, or a lot of stores' hands, but then hopefully it gets in a lot of people, customers' hands as well. So that's going to really blow up for us. I mean, blow up in terms of mass production in 2023.
Well, that's exciting. All right, now you mentioned NFTs. I know you're sitting in the school parking lot. I see a school bus behind you. Again, by the way, we're on with Esoteric from Zarface, and earlier, if you've listened up until this point, we talked about his authenticity. Look, he's in line when he's picking up his kid. So what's really interesting is this guy is truly authentic. He lives his life, and he lets people know about his day-to-day life, which is who he is, and it's also like what he raps about as well. So if he likes more information about Zarface, and their latest album, Czarmagedon. You can just go to czarface.com. You can also pick up the music wherever music is available. He's got hoodies, he's got hats, he's got action figures, he's got playing cards. And by the way, I'm sure you're aware of this. I went on eBay and checked out some of the stuff. I mean, you have some of these action figures that are being sold for $130, so they're also obviously collectible as well. So again, if you'd like some more information about him and what they're doing, 7L, czarface.com. So, you know, you'd mentioned briefly, and I texted you and you didn't respond to me. And by the way, just so you guys know, this guy's probably one of the worst texters ever. Not just because he's super famous and he doesn't want to respond to me. You just suck at texting. Let's just get it out there.
I don't make a lot of typos. I just sometimes if I'm in the middle of something, I'll get a text and I'll say, wow, Mike deserves an informed response that has some thought to it. And I'm gonna give him that response, but I can't do it right now because I'm like hang gliding.
And then you never get to it.
Stop it, man. Here we are. We're in the flesh right now.
We are here now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, so NFTs. Look.
Yeah.
I texted you about NFTs probably 6 months ago. And I have a couple of friends that are artists, street artists, New York artists, you know, some bigger names too. What are your thoughts on NFTs? Have you thought about it? I'm sure you have thought about it. Are you guys going to do one? And look, the only reason that, you know, just like with ICOs, initial coin offerings, and other crypto things, there's a lot of rug pulling. There's a lot of bullshit out there. The NFTs that I think are going to survive are going to be derived from an entity like Zarface or like you that has a fan base that can appreciate it, and it's not a land grab / money grab for you. So have you thought about it? Are we going to see an NFT? Is something in the works? Can we talk about it?
Yeah, well, we've had a lot of NFT ideas. We've had a lot of things that started and then stopped as we kind of looked at the landscape and looked at, you know, whether it's worth it to jump into that, what the pros and cons are. You know, a couple of the songs on Czarmagedon were actually started as tracks for this NFT that we were going to produce with an animated short, you know, real short, Zarface cartoon. And this was like, I think right when the whole thing was beginning, and we started seeing people put, you know, just the one image, and then some people were going further, and you just saw these astronomical numbers of how people, you know, what they were selling for it. Inspectah Deck was probably one out of the three of us saying, oh, yo, we got to get on this, we got to do this, we got to get on this. So we started making some tracks, and we got cold feet, and some of them started the album for Czarmagedon, which is now, you know, out in the physical and streaming world everywhere, Spotify, Tidal, Apple, but you can also get it on vinyl and cassette and CD. But I think it's a tough idea to really wrap my head around, as it is for a lot of people. But you speak to the right people, and boom, it snaps. And then you're like, oh, okay, I get it. I get what you're saying. And I've tried to read as much as I can about it, but I probably still can't articulate it the way I'd want to. I still don't know what the end game is as far as the environmental aspect of it is, if that's really a BS or that's something to consider. So yeah, we've had many chances to launch one, and we saw a lot of people jump in the pool before us, and we just haven't done it yet. So now I don't know whether it's kind of like tattoos. Like everyone's got tattoos all over themselves now. And am I cool because I never got a tattoo? Does that make me unique? Am I unique because we don't have an NFT? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Look, you know, with an established brand like yours, you want to make sure that you do the right thing. You want to do the right thing by your fans and your followers. And look, I mean, you have people that are tattooing, you know, your name on their body. They're tattooing Zarface on their body. So I think, you know, I think it's not a bad idea to be cautious about it. But I also think that if you did do it, and you did it right, which I think you guys always do the branding stuff right, I think there could be a big, you know, positive thing, not necessarily even again as a money grab for you guys, but when I look at like, you know, Bob Menery, who's, you know, from here, from Mass, and I look at what they're doing with the Full Send podcast and some of these NFTs that are almost they're like tickets to, their access, right?
Yeah.
To things. And so I think if you guys keep doing what you're doing, I think it'll be a good thing. Now, all right. So listen, we've been on with my good friend Esoteric from Zarface. He truly is an internationally recognized hip hop superstar. Not only from what I'm saying, but this guy's all over the world. He's toured all over the world. They have fans all over the world. They have merchandise. They literally have people tattooing not only the imagery of Zarface, but their name on their bodies. If you'd like some more information about Zarface and Esoteric, go to zarface.com. Their latest album, Czarmagedon, is out. I'm guessing they'll be going on tour as well. You can probably learn all of that. Check him out on Instagram at Zarface_SO. He's got that blue check mark that I'm super jealous of. My name's Mike
Gary
Alden.
V got me that, man. Your boy Gary V. Gary V.
Gary V got you that?
Yes, he did. Yes,
Hold on. I was about to end the show. Tell me how that happened.
I just wanted to name drop Gary V, man. I should have done it earlier.
That was it. Just dropping it. Just making sure.
No, it's the truth. It's the truth. I said something in one of my rhymes, like something about the Celtics, the green. I got my Tatum up. This ain't Lady Luck. This is Gary Vaynerchuk. And then he had heard it, and he heard me reference him in a rhyme, and he reached out to me and everything, invited me to his offices in New York and everything. And we talked, we chatted. And I was like thinking, you're dominating Instagram. This is probably 2000, I don't know, 17, 18 or something. Very gracious guy, very good. Took time to speak to me and stuff. And I was like, how do I get one of those blue checks? And he was like, send me your license. So I was like, what? He goes, send me a license. So I sent him a picture of my license. And like the next day I was like, boom, blue check.
Dude, I am so jealous right now. And I'm so glad that I mentioned that. I'm a huge fan of Gary V.
Yeah.
Dude, that is awesome.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And I don't know what he's got something going through his body that no matter how many Red Bull monsters I drink, I can't reach that level of
I'm a
energy.
big fan of his, man. I actually hung out with him a couple times. Dude, you talk about authenticity and just realness, man. That guy, to me, I mean, again, I've been around him a couple times. He seems pretty real. That's what I really like about him. And I think his information
so maybe if you drop his name in a verse, maybe he'll hook you up, man.
All right, I'm gonna work on my rhyme, and then I'll drop in a Gary Vaynerchuk in my rhyme. All right, let me wrap this up before your son jumps. Although I'd love to have your son. I'd love to interview your son as well. So again, this has been another edition of the Alden Report. My good friend Esoteric in his car, waiting for his son, who was really the genesis of Zarface, and it's such a beautiful story. This guy is doing big things, not only in the music world, but in the branding world. So make sure you're following him, make sure you're checking him out, and make sure you also pick up his latest album, Czarmagedon. It's available everywhere where music is sold. You can go to Zarface, czarface.com, also be in the notes. My name is Mike Alden. That's my good friend Esoteric, and we'll see you soon.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by Wicked Happy. The way you live your life depends on your outlook, and theirs is simple. Be Wicked Happy. Wicked Happy provides you with apparel to make you smile. So if you want to be wicked happy and you want to look wicked cool, then visit wickedhappy.com, and at checkout, enter in the code RADIO for an additional 15% off your entire order. Again, visit wickedhappy.com, apparel to make you smile.